Oh, there we go. Amy's coughing. It's one of those days. Amy, thanks for coming on the show again. By the way, I'm Ed Parco, one of the hosts, and I'm with Amy T. Meyer. And I want to thank you for, being such a trooper that you're doing this while you have COVID. I knew you were going to cough. That's why I did that.
Or did you? It's a good, fair, safe bet.
Well, you got COVID. What are you going to do? Someone's got to do this. All right. So today, bear with me. I was trying to check something. Let's bring in our guests. I'm a little off today. I apologize. My son's finally getting out of here. It's nice having them here for the holidays, but it's nice to have them gone after they've been here an extra week. But our guest today is Amy. Is it Jorgensen, right?
Jorgensen, yeah.
All right. And you must have been referred from Amy or somebody Amy knows, because I'm sorry, I don't know you. So who is Amy?
It's just a world of Amy's. Yes, I was. Amy found me.
She did. Were you lost?
I was possibly slightly. No, I think it was one of those cool connections where someone sees the word veteran, right? And it's that automatic like kumbaya moment.
Yes.
Totally. I mean, I've had multiples those this week with people who are veterans who, I was talking to somebody else about this earlier, and I'll get over it. But our whole area was a District 10. It's now been split into 2 districts, and people running for it. We have multiple veterans running, which is unusual. And I'm real big on getting veterans in politics, because one thing that we can do as veterans is take the emotion out of it and actually have a conversation with somebody and not get upset and yell at them and scream at them usually.
Yeah, I would agree, right? Or you can be, and then after the conversation, no matter how elevated it is, you can be like, okay, shake hands. Cool, we're good.
Yeah. Hey, let's go get a beer.
Yep.
That's what I say.
The chug test. Anyway, Amy, so what is we always ask, what service did you pick? Why did you pick it? And it's not negative. It's just everybody has a reason. We had one person on here. The reason she picked that service, they bought her a steak.
Yeah. Why did I? I mean, I have a joke of why I did now, because of course the Air Force is the best. But
that is a joke. That's a funny joke. That is a joke.
Isn't it? Right? The Chair Force. As we're known as the Chair Force. I was going to school to be a pilot, so I was in college, and I didn't get into the military aspect of it until I was almost graduated. So I couldn't do any like ROTC or anything like that. And when I started looking at all of the other branches, I honestly picked the Air Force because they were the only ones that told me that I would know if I had a guaranteed pilot slot before I joined. And not that I didn't want to serve my country, but by that point I had like 70 grand dumped into learning to fly airplanes. And so I really did probably pick it because it is the Chair Force. I knew that was going to be my job, was to be a pilot. And then the other services, that wasn't probably going to be my main thing. So yeah, I kind of picked it probably because it is the Chair Force.
Well, you picked it because it guaranteed your job, which my son picked the Army because they would guaranteed his job where all the other services would not. And so I think it's just how that works for you. If they need you and they will guarantee, you want to go in as a guaranteed job because you do not want to go in otherwise.
Yeah. And I was definitely kind of the oddball coming in because I already had 2 kids. Like I know when even talking to the recruiter, he was like, okay, well, this is just kind of weird for us. And even when I was going through all my pilot training, I was definitely the only mom in any of my classes anywhere. I mean, most of the girls that were there going through pilot training, they were just newly married or single. So, I like to just roll in and kind of shake it up a little bit.
So
now, hold on. I got one more question. I'm sorry, okay. Amy. Do you still fly today?
That was my question.
Too bad I got it first.
I actually don't fly at all. And I'm a 100% okay with that, but it definitely surprises people. I actually have a corporate job. I work in quality and food safety. So I wouldn't say, I mean, I don't do anything close to what I was doing as far as that goes, but definitely without my military track, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because it definitely helps me with like my, I have a side business that I do. That's kind of where I fulfill my passion, because unfortunately, I don't hate my corporate job, but it's definitely not as fulfilling as my other business is. But I'm definitely not flying any airplanes, but using everything I learned still.
All right. So I have to ask, what's your passion businesses?
They have to do with pumpkins.
Am I asking? I'm sorry, Amy. Is these all your questions that I'm taking today? I'm sorry.
Roll with it.
It wouldn't
That's
be those
fine.
pumpkin things behind you, would it be?
Okay, so yeah, actually, kind of. At one point, which we can talk about more, but I've gotten far enough through my own process that I can say these things without everyone like breaking down, so don't everyone get all emotional on me. But when I got out of the military, my husband took his life. And then I got really emotionally lost. I didn't know what to do. I had 2 kids. I found someone that, well, I found someone. I was in contact with a guy that I had grown up around the corner from, and he had been widowed previously. And it's just a weird story because my mom was best friends with his wife. And so after my spouse died, we kind of just came together in sort of that like, oh, we both lost our spouses. Like, you know, we feel sort of lost, and we shouldn't have been jumping into a relationship because we were both like super damaged. And so I lived like 2 years in this really narcissistic relationship. And then we had a little boy together, and then we had a little girl together, and she ended up dying. And so we got into this space where we were like, okay, we just lost our daughter. Like, we're either going to get a divorce or figure out how to make this happen. And so I went through this really weird transformation because this wasn't the type of person I was. Like, I was, you know, how everybody calls you, the type A personality. And I was in the military and no one could ever take me down. And then my husband passes away, and I stayed on top of my game. Like, I didn't let anyone see me cry. And then after I got into this crazy relationship and my daughter passed away, I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I had a freaking mental breakdown. And that person that I always showed everyone, that really tough girl, just couldn't do it anymore. And so I got like really into trying to figure out how in the world do I not like take my life myself, because I was so lost. And I had gone to therapists and doctors, and I was on medication, and nothing was working. And so I realized that there was alternative things going on that I could look at. And like, even talking about it, like I look at it now and I'm like, wow, I never would have even dove into this. But so I do a thing called energy work, and I would have thought it was the most hocus pocus psycho thing if you would have asked me about it before I went through all this. But really, I got into the data and I got into the science, and I realized that our emotions are totally responsible for how our bodies are reacting. And when you get control of that, so all of this crazy stuff, this is me learning to love myself. This is my inner child being like, you know what? Screw everyone. If I want to wear an Alice in Wonderland shirt today in my pajama pants to Walmart, I'll own it. And I'll wear it. And I don't care about what anyone else thinks. And so it's coming to this really healthy space where you probably have heard of like NLP, because it's really big in like business stuff. So it's just it's rewiring your brain. It's getting rid of all the crap that people have taught you. Like my mom told me when I was in high school, you can't be a pilot. Girls don't fly airplanes. It's getting rid of all that crap, all those agreements that you made when you were growing up, and actually doing what makes you happy. And so that's my side gig. That's my purpose, is helping other people get to that space.
I have a picture of you at Walmart.
Yeah. No, you probably do. That's me. I'm that person.
Whatever makes you happy. But so I mean, because you're a pilot. I mean, you're strong. There's nothing that should bother you. But and those are what you put out there. That's your armor. And so that isn't always who you are. And it's nice that you were able to work through what you worked through to get to where you are. So you talk about your side business. Is that the only one you have? Because it sounded like you said side businesses when you were talking.
Well, I do a couple of different things just because I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. So that's the cool part about it is when people come to me, I'm able to say, okay, like tell me what you have going on. And then we're going to fit whatever practice I do to fit kind of, because you have your subconscious mind and then you have your cognitive mind. And the magic happens when you get them communicating together, but most people ignore one or the other. And so when you get them kind of working together as friends, then that's when people feel balanced and they feel happy and your health is amazing. So I do have a few different businesses that I do, but they're all basically around energy work, unless you count the free work that I have to do for my husband's business, but he doesn't really pay me for that. So we won't count it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you NLP, you hypnotize people, right?
Mhm.
You went to certified. So can you get Amy to cluck like a chicken kind of, or is it just, or,
You know,
you know,
Why is it got to be me? I think you should cluck like a chicken.
I probably do already. So,
and that's
no, I mean, so you actually work with people to help them work through things. And is that part of a business that you have? Because I mean, you're in the corporate world. We haven't even talked about that job. And then you have these other things. So, and NLP is huge. I mean, for what I mean, it really works. People think it's a hocus pocus, like you said, but it really works. So does the hypnotizing stuff. I looked into that years ago going, I'm going to get certified just to see what I can do with this. And I never did though, but yeah.
Yeah, it's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, I have a whole business that's called Blocked Emotions, and that's basically what we focus on. So you can re-anchor yourself. So that's kind of like going back to me being able to talk about like my daughter died in my arms. And so sometimes I joke about I mean I can joke about it, I can talk about it, I can go back to that space and talk about it in detail without being emotionally overwhelmed by it. And that's the type of stuff that like NLP can do for you so that you can share your story with other people. And that's my whole purpose is, right, I want people to see, wow, I had my life together. Like I was a pilot in the Air Force, and then I got out so I could take care of my kids a little bit. They were kind of having some issues with all the deployments and going on, and I thought things are great. We moved back to where I grew up, back to where my husband grew up, but he's the one that couldn't adjust back into civilian life. He just like, it was blowing his mind because he was a stay-at-home dad when I was in the military, and he just couldn't figure out how to like mesh back in. And so financially that just wasn't going to work because I wasn't making an income anymore. And so we were both trying to get jobs and do all that, adulting thing. And he just couldn't get back into like normal life. And it was tough, but I want people to see that like you can be on top of your world, have the rug pulled out from you literally, and then still come back, still get your game back on. Like not all hope is lost. We're just, we go through moments, and that's what I try to bring to people is knowing that like, no matter where you are, no matter how bad it seems, there's a way out. Like you can get back to a space of happiness again. And my space of happiness now is completely different than it was before. I'm not a pilot anymore. I do, something completely different. So talk about like restarting your life over, but I wouldn't change it for the world. There's a lot to go through, but.
Amy, you had a question?
I do. So if we took it back to like, at different points, like knowing what you know now, are there, and you said you went through therapy and you tried all these different things that got you to where you are with energy work. When you hear somebody talk, is there times when you think, okay, this modality will fit this person, whether it even is talk therapy first, and then if they get to this point, then I think they'll be ready for me? Or do you feel like somebody should, because I always feel like everybody needs therapy at different times, not necessarily for all the time for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But I really believe in therapy. So do you believe that same thing? Like do you think everybody needs energy work at some point, or only if you've done these other things?
You would be absolutely amazed at how many things. So like if you gave me permission to connect to your subconscious, I would be able to tell you about something that happened to you at a certain age. And I would tell you that you have like a certain emotion that's trapped there that is actually that can actually be creating problems for you right now. So there is not a person anywhere that can't benefit from this type of work, because every time you feel something, no matter how small or big, if you don't process it correctly, so maybe you're tired, maybe you're hungry, maybe it's just a buildup. You know how you like suddenly you just start raging at people? You have things that have happened to you. You can have things that are absorbed from other people. That's why, like, when you're in a room and you're like, oh, that person feels kind of icky, or someone's yelling at you, you're absorbing their energy. So we carry all of that around with us, and it can actually move through your body because it's an energy. It's an actual physically measurable energy, and it can get stuck in places. So if your elbow starts hurting and you're like, dang, why is my elbow hurting? There's a chance that you got into some kind of an emotional situation in the past couple of days. If you think back, like, I had my kid telling me that he had this issue going on with his ankle. And he was like, it seriously feels like someone is cutting the back of my ankle when I go up and down stairs. Like, it's killing me. And finally I asked him, I was like, have you been in an altercation with someone on social media lately? And he's like, well, just that person that pissed me off a couple days ago. And I'm like, yeah, because that's the energy from that situation is actually making you feel like you are being, like, you have a knife to the back of the ankle. And so I worked with him on like releasing that and not letting that bother him. And he was like, oh yeah, it's gone. Like, my ankle doesn't hurt at all, because that's how it works. It's honestly, I have 2 master's degrees, and I went through all of my military stuff, black and white, data driven type of a thing. And so wrapping my head around this phenomena was crazy until I started doing it myself. Like, I was working with a client the other day and I was like, I hear a rooster. And she's like, okay. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but girl, you have some energy around a rooster. So hopefully that makes sense to you, because I don't know what that is. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm in a relationship with a guy right now, and it's kind of a friends with benefits thing, and he has roosters all over his yard. And I was like, okay, well, we need to clear some energy around that. And so it's really cool, because that's how it works. Your subconscious starts showing me things, and her subconscious was giving me the visualization of a rooster because she has an emotional thing going on with someone that has roosters. But
Okay,
honestly,
I was gonna say, my next question is it everything you have to be in the same space with the person, or do you do things virtually too?
energy has absolutely no limitations. And they've done this with people where they like take them out of different rooms and they can measure their energies. And yeah, you can connect with someone. Even if you go and sit with someone for 5 minutes and you don't really talk too much, but you're kind of like think of like how you would interact with somebody at a grocery store, just like maybe a little bit. They've actually done that where they've taken 2 people, put them together for just a split second, enough for them to have a little bit of connection, shake hands. Hi, my name is Amy. They pull them apart and put them in these like really cool, I don't know the technical name for it, but these like really cool boxes. They're completely soundproof. You can't use a radio in them. Radios won't go through them. And they actually shine a light in one person's eye, and the person in the other box that they were just with, their pupil will change just like the other one. Like, it's crazy. So energy has no limits. You can connect with someone. You can connect with someone anywhere. You don't even have to be physically talking. If you just have intention to connect with another person, you can. And then it gets into some ethics about why you shouldn't just connect with people just to connect with them, because you can mess with people. It's quite crazy.
So
really.
Ed should never
Actually,
learn.
well, it's been nice talking to you guys. I'm going to go.
Yeah,
Right?
I was gonna say Ed should never learn this stuff because he would only ever mess with me.
Yeah, that is correct. I would definitely mess with you.
Yeah. And then, you have to take into account that people that do this kind of work, like, we really understand the laws of universal energy, or you hear laws of attraction. If you put something out negatively, it will come back to you. So you don't want to like purposefully mess with your neighbor, because it'll come back to you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not from death, but it all comes back to like the laws of karma. So
yeah, I mean, what you put out there, you get back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said that to a mindset coach once, and she's like, "No, that's not what I said." Okay, next, move on. Just because I made it easier for like people to understand, and now you're like, that's not what I said. Yes, you did, but let's move on. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about, and I've been taking over the whole thing from Amy, but when you brought up the whole thing of getting out of the service and moving back, and everybody forgets the spouse. They only think about the veteran, how they transition and how they actually make the change. I think more things need to be there for the spouses, and please don't get me wrong, we forget. Everybody focuses on the veteran, but they don't think about the veteran spouse and what they're going to go through to change and make the change. I mean, because like you said, your husband was a stay-at-home mom. Now it's like, get out and get a job. Well, what do I do? Right. I don't mean to right. So.
And really, have you ever really seen any like support systems for like spouses of military that have post-traumatic stress or anything? Because, you know, like you leave them alone. If anything, I think it's harder to be the spouse than the person deployed. And we used to talk about this when we were deployed, because we would say like, yeah, your spouse is home and has to pay the bills still and take care of all the kids. When you're on a deployment, you have one job. They feed you, you know, I mean, you have one job. That's your task every single day, and nothing that's going on outside of that matters. Like, I don't know if my Verizon bill is due. You know, I'm on a deployment, like my husband's paying for that. So I think there's huge truth into what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, how do they function when they come back out and they're not the veteran? Like, we don't even have things set up for that.
Well, we don't have, a lot of times we don't have stuff set up for actual junior enlisted veterans to begin with. And now let's talk about the spouses. So I think Amy, since you two are together, you can work on that and help all the.
Well, and I agree. Like, I have,
if you don't mind, I think we're going to get us the same size.
Okay.
That way she's not on spot. Yeah. I was trying to make sure that, you know, you were on the spotlight. I'm trying to take it back from you.
Pretty cool.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Amy.
So my husband's last deployment was my hardest deployment, with just all the family stuff and even what happened right after he got back. But what's also interesting, I have a friend who's a military spouse, and he's the stay-at-home. His wife is a nurse on the Army side, and we talked about this. Like, we unloaded one night how frustrating it is. And I feel like sometimes for commands, and Mark, my husband, was good with trying to educate his command that even though, you know, I have my own job and corporate and different things like that, it doesn't mean I don't need to be checked in on. And because he's a officer's spouse, like, he, you know, they went through deployments and nobody checked.
Yeah.
Nobody checked to make sure he was okay. And, you know, and he likes golfing. And so it's usually him, my dad, and I, before they PCS'd away, and we would golf, and it would be, and it's just like his feelings were really intense about how hard it was for him with these different deployments. And his wife she's an amazing woman, and she's ambitious. She wants to be like the highest ranking nurse for the U.S. Army. And so it's not going to stop for them for years.
I think maybe they need to have a conversation.
Do you think that'll solve it all?
No, I think what I'm getting at is sometimes people get in a relationship. One spouse wants to do this and the other spouse doesn't want to do that. They want to do something different, and they haven't had the conversation that they're not anywhere on the same page. It's huge. When I'm not saying that it's their situation. I'm sorry, I got my little squish ball. Sorry, I was cleaning up in here because they're doing filming tomorrow.
I thought you were stressed.
Oh, no. Anyway, so I just think there's so much that besides helping the spouse of of that is helping everybody make sure they have that communication between you and your spouse, that you're on the same page. And here's an example. They asked me, I do radio once a week. They asked me that they want me to do it 5 days a week from 6 to 7. And I normally, if I was saying, yeah, let's do it. But I had to go home and I said, honey, what do you think about this? And of course she says, I hate the idea, but I know what your long-term goal is. And I'll have a co-host like I do now. So on Fridays, if we want to go to the cabin, we'll have her take the whole show with somebody else on, and vice versa for her. We'll do it that way. So it's a lot easier, but it's asking and making sure that everybody's on the same page. It's a relationship, not just for one person. And I think a lot of times really type A people focus on them and they forget about the other person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like in the military, I mean, in corporate people do that too, but in the military, it's worse because you're getting PCS'd around and you're That sounds horrible. PCS
I
around.
know. Yeah.
And
By the way, it's an acronym.
yeah,
for-
right? I was like, wait, that wasn't the appropriate use of that. And then on top of it, it's the deployments or the trainings. And I mean, yeah, I saw a lot of spouses just that expectation of taking the back seat because, you know, you're gonna climb the ladder.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I think for them, I feel like they were on the same page, but it didn't mean that he didn't want to be checked in on, and that it wasn't not hard for him.
No.
And
Right. But maybe there's something they could put together in place for other spouses like that are stay at home, that they could work together and make sure everybody, since he feels that way, and please, it's got to be harder for guys. No offense. I mean, stay at home, it's got to be one of those harder things for most guys to be the stay at home person. For me, I couldn't do it. I raised my, I just couldn't do it. So I don't know where I was going there, but I definitely don't ask me to be a stay at home dad. It's not going to work.
you won't.
I raised my kids for 30 years. I don't need any more. But that's a hard job to stay at home. I mean, my wife couldn't do it either.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a difference between couldn't and want to. I think there is, and it sounds like a bad term, but to me, if you're domestic, I think and that can be without a gender role. Like,
are you saying like you're domesticated, or you mean domestic, like you're not from overseas, but you're from America? You're a domestic brand. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Maybe like baking
and you go back to I would go back to like maternal instincts. I don't know. I've seen wonderful people stay home on both sides. That's just what their passion is.
Oh, my husband loved it.
Yeah.
My husband loved being a stay-at-home mom. But if I were to try to have my current husband now be a stay-at-home mom, he would be like, oh, hell no. So I think I'm totally with you. Like, a lot of it is your personality. And I think that's one of the reasons my husband had a hard time coming out of the military, is because he was still like, I just want to be home with the kids. And we couldn't financially do that. So it was just.
But honey, they're in high school now.
Right.
See, but Mark could see. And that's our goal, is to get him to be a stay-at-home grandpa.
Yeah. They're at college. But I still want to be at home in case.
Yeah, there's still cookies to send.
Well, and I feel like, he would do even, and if we could have done it, or if we had chose to do it way earlier in our marriage, he would do it to the nth degree and love it. And the kids love spending time with Mark and all the things that I don't do.
I mean, I could do it if we had a nanny, a cleaning lady, all this, a
boy.
chef.
I see you kind of like is wanting the pool boy.
Excuse me?
You seem like that type.
No, I don't want a pool boy, but nice guy. My wife wants a pool boy. Maybe a pool girl, not a boy. But anyway.
I think though, right? It comes back to like what I mentioned like at the beginning. Like, just do you. Like, if you want to stay home and it resonates with you, then freaking do it. And if it doesn't resonate with you and you're like, I can't do this, then don't. Then I'm off.
I'm just saying, have the conversation and be, and like I told you, be who you are today. Don't be anybody else. It's all about who you are. And if people don't like who you are, that's okay. The right people will like you and they'll come to you. So
exactly.
I also think
for other people.
As we look at trying to heal our nation and build character within our communities, I think understanding and honoring different people's paths. So energy work, I think, is incredibly powerful and fits in the toolbox. Like, we need many tools in the toolbox because there's so many different parts and pieces of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say I'm so thankful that you responded to me, Amy, and that you came on our podcast and shared your story. It is very powerful.
Well, I appreciate it. So thank you for reaching out and giving me the opportunity.
I'm still stuck on the healing the nation.
Oh, whatever. And so you must love pumpkin
I want to
spice.
heal the nation, but I don't see it happening right now. So let's move on.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah, that's a week-long podcast.
He won't invite me to that one. It'll be on some other network.
I have no problem inviting you to that. I like both sides of the story. I need to know why people think the way they do. That's why I have podcasts. That's why I do what I do. I want to know why you feel that way and why you think it's the right way. It doesn't mean I agree with it or am going to tell you that I don't agree with it. That's your story. Like, I mean, if you want to be a stay-at-home dad, great. If I just couldn't do it.
Right. It all just comes down to how we filter things because of everything we've been through in life. Our filters are all just completely different. And the people that don't understand that are the ones that try to make other people feel the same way that they do.
Right. And you can't.
I agree.
Mm-mm.
And that goes back to having relationships and trying to change the other person. You have to be okay who that person is now. Don't try to change. Nobody will change for you. So,
Yep.
All right. I think I'm done stating all the relationship stuff. Thanks for making this a relationship show today.
Right.
It was important. It was needed.
Someone somewhere needed to hear it.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. All right. I guess I'll say goodbye then. Are we done here? Anything else you want to add, Amy, before we go? And that would be not you, Amy T. Meyer.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm just an advocate. Exactly what you keep saying. Like, don't let other people bother you. Don't let other people take your sparkle.
I never said that, but I think I'll use that now.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody take your sparkle.
Yeah, it fits you.
Well, you said I pool boy. That really offended me. Yeah.
I will say, Amy, if you know any other veterans that would love to, we would love to hear them share their stories, and they don't have to be anything crazy or special or trying to accomplish anything, but they can. Okay. And or any groups that are helping veterans. We're always looking for great podcast guests like yourself.
I actually have one I'll send you. You'll like them. They're a coffee shop. They're coffee shop owners.
Cool. And by the way, everybody else who's watching this and listening to this, if you're a veteran and want to come on and tell your story, reach out to us and we will have you on. And Amy T. Meyer, thank you for being here. Amy Jorgensen, or whatever your last name is. I can't talk today. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you sharing your story. If you like what we do here, please let us know, share, and comment. If you're watching this after the fact, just type on their hashtag replay. Thank you.
Thanks.